ado, we have started our recording. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this wonderful, beautiful day. It's going to be awesome outside. I suggest you get out and you enjoy the beautiful weather because that will do wonders for making you feel happy and healthy and getting you kind of in the right mindset so that you can get prepped and ready for the summertime. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to actually start working this summer and get some things done, feel productive, do all those wonderful things. It's one of my favorite things to do. I hope you enjoy that as well. But today, guys, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Cold War. Now, I don't want to beat this horse to death because we have talked about this on Monday. We talked about it yesterday, and we're going to talk a little bit about it again today. But today is mostly going to be used as a little bit of a check for understanding and a realization for us to kind of get up to speed on all the information we've already covered. So if you look back here, I've got a quick little overview about some of the things that we've talked about as we've addressed the Cold War in different pieces. All right? Talked about the Cold War. We never officially set an end date on the Cold War, but it runs from 1945, which is the end of World War II, all the way till 1991. So we're talking about a time span of 50 years where there's this constant struggle between capitalism versus communism. Remember, there are also alliances that form. And so we have Nato, which is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Goodness, I can barely talk today. All right, versus the Warsaw Pact. Remember, the U.S. is kind of the leader of NATO. The Soviets are the leader of the Warsaw Pact. So all of these things start to develop, and then it's linked to all of these other pieces of history that we've heard about. We might not understand fully, but we kind of know what's going on. All right, Korea, the war in Korea, the war in Vietnam, the war in Iran. All right. The invasion of Afghanistan and the establishment of the Taliban started with the Cold War and the Soviets actually going and invading Afghanistan. And then complications with the establishment of the country of Israel, which is still debated and kind of fought over to this day, has links to the Cold War. So guys, this shapes world history for 50 years, and it really doesn't do it justice that we only get to cover it for 2 weeks. But the cool thing about that is you've heard a lot about it in American history. I know that your American history teachers focus a lot on it. Your curriculum was all about things like the Cuban Missile Crisis and all of those different issues. All right, so we're just kind of glossing over, hitting the high points, making sure that we remember those things. All right, and to do that today, to keep it nice and short and simple and make sure that we are prepped and ready to understand the Cold War as we move forward into our last week, which is next week, we are going to take a look at a few things, all right? The first thing I want to do is I want to show you really quick. We can boom, get in here, boom, get in here. All right, I want to show you and remind you, we got that little overview up here, just as a reminder of, hey, this is what we've talked about. This is what you should know, all right? This is where we left off. Our quick overview is, boom, the Cold War is communism versus capitalism. When you distill it down to the most basic thing, it's communist versus capitalist, all right? The United States versus the Soviets. You see this represented here. Now, some of the most important elements of the Cold War that we see play out are, number one, you have NATO versus the Warsaw Pact, just what we talked about back here, all right? One side is a bunch of countries, 10 countries in NATO allied with the United States. And then you have 5 countries in the Warsaw Pact allied with the Soviets, and they are basically declaring that they're going to be at odds with one another for a very long time. They try to establish other governments. They end up fighting proxy wars like in Korea and Vietnam and Iran. But all of these things play out. But guys, it's all about multiple perspectives. All right, you see things down here like this is a piece of propaganda from the 1950s during the Cold War. This is produced in the United States. It says, is this tomorrow? America under communism. And like the American flag is burning. Everyone is suffering. There are different perspectives on this. As the Cold War progressed, it started this demonization of each side. In Russia, they saw America as like greedy capitalist pigs that were super rich and doing whatever they wanted. All right. In America, the United States citizens were told and they thought about the Soviets as like communists that just wanted to take over and wanted to control and wanted to do whatever they want. They didn't play by the rules and all of these different things. That's kind of represented really well in this image right here. You see, this is from the Soviet perspective. All these countries are attacking them and the United States is going to take their grip over the globe. And then, if you take a look at this picture, this is the Soviets. Actually, from the America's perspective, these are the Soviets reaching out and trying to establish their influence everywhere. All right? Now, something that also made the Cold War super huge was the nuclear threat. Remember, the United States had developed the nuclear bomb and they dropped it on Japan at Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Now, after that, okay, shortly after that, the Soviets actually develop a nuclear bomb, and you end up kind of pace on pace, eye to eye, with both of these superpower countries having the ability to strike with nuclear weapons. And that is a piece of what made the Cold War so unique, is because it was like this stalemate where no one wanted to pull that final trigger because everyone knew that each had these super powerful nuclear arsenals. All right? Now remember, guys, this is from 1945 to 1991, and this is connected to almost all global events during this time period. All right, when you talk about global elections, when you talk about American culture and development in the 1950s and 60s, when you talk about the changes that happened in Soviet Russia and the reforms that they go through, everything is really connected to the Cold War during this time. Like I said, it's crazy because it shapes global events for over 50 years on a global scale, all right? Now, when I say global scale, I mean it is literally global, all right? Deals with war in Korea, war in Vietnam, the control of Iran, the invasion of Afghanistan, the formation of Israel. You take a look at this picture right here. Guys, this is a picture, this is actually dated about 1979. So this is as the Cold War progressed. You see it becomes a global conflict. All these areas that are in blue are either NATO countries, the dark blue are NATO countries, so countries that are officially allied and part of NATO with the United States, or if they're light blue, it just means that they have control. They've kind of aligned themselves with the United States, and they see eye to eye with them. Now, the red and pink countries and the orange countries, the red countries are all of the countries that are in the Warsaw Pact. Russia and all of this buffer zone right here, all right, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia up in here, the Baltic states. And then China ends up being a big ally of the Soviets. Over here, or down in here, you have Vietnam that becomes a big issue, the northern half of Korea, all right? Over in here, you have Iran that becomes a major player, but only the north side of Iran, only half of Iran, becomes a supporter of the Soviets. And then you have all these little proxy states. And then you have X's, red X's for communist guerrillas, so like soldiers that were fighting for the communist cause in these different areas. Blue X's for capitalist or anti-communist guerrillas that were fighting the ideas of communism. So you see the entire globe is wrapped up in this enormous conflict that's really hard to make sense of, but really progresses and, like I said, shapes the course of all global history. And so this is a perfect map to help put into your brain just how widespread these challenges and these changes are over 50 years. This is why we spend so much time talking about it. This is why we say it's such a significant event. Now, after that quick little review, because now we have a little background, we've also talked about all of these different elements back here. We went through all of these different ideas about the start of the Cold War, how the conflict began, all those different things. I want to call upon your knowledge a little bit, and I want to give you a nice, easy kind of review to work through a few of those things. And so to do that, guys, we're actually not going to have a super long class today, because now that we've covered a lot of this review, what you're going to do is you're going to go to Google Classroom. I'm going to see if we can get out of our notes here. All right, we're going to go to Google Classroom. And when you go to Classroom, guys, you'll see posted on the stream, okay, right under the announcement. Here's the announcement for today, and then here's the stream. I've got a quick little the Cold War Oversimplified activity. All right, now what does that look like? Just like your last oversimplified activity that we had with World War II, this is a quick little guided skeleton note that you will go through as you watch, okay, the Cold War Oversimplified. And the cool thing is you can find that link right there in the assignment. I say, hey, right here is the link to watch the video. So you go there, and then boom, it starts playing. You've got all this information. It's going to walk you through different aspects, okay, of the Cold War. And as you go along with it, you're just going to be cruising along, filling out each of these blanks. Now, One thing I want to call to your attention is this only takes us to the establishment of new leaders. And then under here I've got, hey, this is to be continued. Because this part 1 of the Cold War Oversimplified, covers a lot of stuff that we haven't really got to talk about yet. But it covers all the way up to these new leaders, and that's the information I want you to be accountable for. So what you need to do is you just go through and you watch the whole video, but you fill out each of the blanks as you go along. You just type in your answers. Everyone should have a copy of this assignment. And then when you have all of the answers typed into the blanks, you finish up the video, okay? Pass the to be continued because it talks a little bit longer, about 4 more minutes after the new leader part, all right? You keep watching that to pick up that information before we talk about it. Make sure this is completed and done, and then you turn it in. And guys, it's due on Saturday at midnight, just like every other thing in my class. So we have a pretty quick and easy idea for how we're going to learn today and stay accountable for some of the information that we've been covering. Now, a couple reminders, guys, as we jump into this. Number 1, you have to remember that before you can jump in and do this, you have to go back, you have to make sure to watch the other lectures from this week and done that quick little quiz that's posted on Google Classroom. All right, that's going to help you stay accountable and actually understand what this whole video, this oversimplified video, is talking about today. All right. Also, make sure you stay on top of all of the other assignments that you may not have gotten done up to this point, because we're getting down into really the last week that we're learning anything as we go into next week, and you got to stay on top of it and be getting it done. Now, once this is all finished up and you have these notes that you've taken as you watch the video, and you follow along and you make sure to take that quiz, then you're done with your assignments for this week in this class. And then you're prepped and ready to kill the last week that we have here online in world history. And then you're progressing, you're moving on. Most of you guys are becoming juniors. It's going to be an awesome time, but you got to stay on top of it and you got to get it done. So we have a pretty quick and easy class today, and that's because this video, you're going to watch another probably about 15 minutes of this video as you go through and you fill out all of these blanks. But it's funny, it's entertaining, you stay accountable by filling this out, and then you turn it in. And I didn't want to give you too much work or have you be in class for too long today as we finish up. So make sure you have this finished. You follow along by watching the video that we've clicked on. You can find this assignment. See, here's the video. You can find the assignment posted in Classroom. And everything else is pretty much well and good and easy peasy to get done and be ready to go. So without further ado, without talking you to death, does anyone have any questions before I cut you loose and have you work on this and get everything done for this week as we finish up the Cold War?
How many assignments do we have left?
How many assignments? You're going to have 2 assignments next week after this one. So this is your last assignment for this week. You're going to have 2 next week, and then you're done. So you're on the final stretch. Not too much to worry about, but just enough to make sure we're learning our stuff.
Okay.
So guys, if you don't have any questions, stay diligent. Make sure to get this stuff done. All right? Turn in your work on time, and I will see you next week on Monday at 11, unless you want to stop by office hours, which I have tomorrow and Friday. So guys, work hard. Enjoy the beautiful weather. I will see you later.